Welcome back, everybody. I am so excited here. We are here once again in the crypt. Another amazing interview lined up. I'm very, very excited about this one. One I have actually been thinking about since this topic was brought up to me, which was probably a few weeks ago. And it's had me thinking. I've had great discussions with people online, in person, and it's going to be a really great topic. I have a great guest once again joining me, a regular who's actually come on a few times now, and I really enjoy the conversations that I have with my guest. I've learned so much, and I really enjoy the conversations that we have. And this is going to be a great topic, which the topic is going to be the conditioned versus the awakened man. And this to me is a great topic. This is a great conversation. I know I've had a few conversations, as I was just saying, and it went on for hours, and we kind of went all over talking about this. So I think it's a great topic. It's a great subject, and an important one to have too, especially with what's going on in our world currently. So I'm just going to go ahead and welcome my guest on. I'm excited to have you back once again, my friend, Mr. Will Keller. Welcome back to the crypt. I'm excited to have you here, as you can tell.
Thank you, my brother. It's a pleasure and an honor to be back on your show.
Oh, thank! It's so cool of a topic. You brought that. We kind of talked about this. You brought it to me, and I thought this is a great topic. And as I was just saying in the intro, I've had discussions. I was letting you know that we kind of get these groups of people together, and it's an amazing way to have interaction, especially in person, and you can kind of talk with each other and bounce ideas off. So I'm really excited for you to come and talk to us about this, the condition versus the awakened man. So I'm going to let you take the reins here, Will, and wherever you want to start. I know I'm going to have questions along the way, so let's do it.
Excellent. Yeah, no, sounds good. This is going to be a very interesting and intricate topic. The conditioned versus awakened man. And when I'm using the term man, this means human, right?
Right.
Male and female, woman and man. So when we look at the quote unquote truth movement and freedom movement, we can see that there's a gradient of levels of consciousness, levels of awareness, right? And we see people kind of stuck in certain ruts and categories and topics, and it's hard for them to break away from that. So really understanding, what does it mean to be conditioned? What does it mean to be awake? And I think we all need to ask this question to ourselves continuously, right, through our journey of awareness and evolving in higher consciousness. It's really important to do that. It's kind of like an inventory check, right? So let's talk about conditioned.
Okay.
What does it mean to be conditioned? So to be conditioned is simply, well, we could use this in many terms. It means that you have learned behaviors that most of us have picked up. The average person is picked up in childhood, and they have a certain worldview that has been given to them, or they were influenced and they picked it up along the way. Even adults can be conditioned, and their conditioning can
Absolutely.
progress and get worse. Right? We're going to
Hmm.
kind of touch on the blue pill, red pill, black pill, gold pill today as well. So this aligns perfectly with the concept that we're talking about. So, but when I'm talking about conditioned, we're talking about like the normal average person that has a low level of awareness, right? That doesn't even question their worldview, their belief systems, what is truth, the government, the actual control system, the education system, all these facets of categories that we really need to have a solid foundation rooted in correct moral truth, right? There
Absolutely.
are correct answers. We can understand and discover what truth is. This does not mean the totality of reality of existence, but it does mean that we can learn, discover, and understand what is going on in the world. And we can learn about ourselves as well at a profound level.
Hmm.
So the average person being conditioned, this is your normal person, thinks that, we have government. Government is just a necessary evil. Um, we have the education system. They should put their kids through the 12-year indoctrination education system, etc. You go to the allopathic doctor, all the general type of stuff, right? What
Yep.
this really is, Rick, it's domestication. So this is why the social engineers, why I use this term, because this is what they are doing. They are engineering, they are influencing people, they are conditioning people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Society to take certain information in. They're spoon feeding information to get an outcome, to get certain type of effect, which is behavior itself, to act a certain way in the world.
Yep.
They are not actually forcing you. Well, in some cases they can be, but I mean this aligns with order following and duress and coercion. But the people at the top behind the veil, they're the ones that are pulling the strings. So they are facilitating and influencing all of these different types um, of scenarios. They are engineering the facets of society, education, health, um, government, all this kind of stuff that we
Yep.
see. So the domestication, right? When you domesticate an animal, we can look at dogs, right? Dogs, their lineage is from wolves, right? Wild dogs. Um, which, originally the word dog, that's kind of a bastardized version of the word. It used to be hounds. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Hound.
but then once domestication came in, then the term dog kind of got brought in. And we can look at horses as well, right? There is a benefit of domesticating animals, for kind of a symbiosis, right? When
Yeah.
horses came into play, it really helped out humanity in farming and agriculture and all this stuff, transportation, etc. But what you're doing through repetition, you are conditioning the animal to act a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
And
dog,
I just want to add in one sec, just because we were talking about, you brought up horses, Will, and
yeah,
what's interesting too is my dad was he raced horses most of my life, and he was a horse trainer, and they called it breaking the horse, like you had to break the horse, and I always found that one word when he would say that very interesting, that like
absolutely.
you're breaking the horse, and I'm like, and then I think, and then you learn about even like with elephants, for the circus, I remember going to the circus, and the person that was training the elephants was like, we start off putting a chain on them when they're very young, they can't get away, and then eventually we can just take that chain away because they're so conditioned they won't even try to run away anymore. They still think that chain is there. So I just wanted to add that in. That,
Beautiful point. I grew up on a ranch. I was raised with horses, riding horses, breaking horses, right? Yes,
yep.
absolutely. This is domesticating, conditioning. You have to break a certain level of their spirit, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are correct ways to kind of domesticate and incorrect ways as well, right? With horses, for example, it is all about positive reinforcement, but also repetition. You put a horse on the lead line, and you walk or run the horse in a circle, right,
Yep.
to just get the flow of direction and the commands correctly, as like the foundation. But we can look at dogs, how people immorally and incorrectly they use dogs for dog fighting,
Mm-hmm.
and that is an incorrect way of breaking a dog. You have to break the dog's spirit so much that they're disassociated and detached from themselves, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they're in a
Yep.
full-on programmable state, and they're fully domesticated
Right.
incorrectly. And this is what humans are as well. When we look at the world and how culture and society operates, it's a excuse me, it's a trauma-based system
Mm-hmm.
based on fear from birth, all the way up through adolescence and into adulthood and throughout our lives as well. It's based on fear. So breaking the spirit of humanity. And at what point does someone, sit back and contemplate, um, and really touch on the philosophical aspects, which is asking the deep questions, the internal dialogue of what is going on in the world? Why do I operate a certain way? right? So they're looking at their conditioning, they're looking at how they act in the world, and their behavior, and what's going on in the bigger picture itself. So we see that obviously the conditioning is prevalent. The evidence
Right.
for this would be, the whole pandemic. We can see
Mhm.
that the globe itself, the planet, operated in tangent, meaning that the majority of people were complicit, obeyed the dictates from the social engineers, and followed right in line. Right, there's the
Yeah.
evidence right there
And
for sure.
defended it aggressively. They
Absolutely.
defended it. Like, I know I was at the receiving end of one.
Yep,
So, yeah.
defended it, supported it,
Yep.
condoned it, and and became order followers themselves, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Violating and uh, coercive behaviors towards
Mhm.
their own family and to the public in large. So that's kind of the analysis of where we're at, right? It's like we're not at a great awakening. We're at a great awareness, meaning that there are a lot of people that are through events like the pandemic. They have, it kind of shook them. It cracked the calcification in their conditioning, and it made them say, whoa, something's not right, something is going on. That is opportunity in my eyes, right? This is a
Mhm.
great time to come out and go public and speak about certain type of information like you're doing, and myself, because they have that crack in their foundation of the conditioning, right? So excellent time to talk about this kind of stuff. But also, like I was saying, there's a gradient of awareness, right? There's a gradient of conditioning as well. So we see that a lot of people only go a certain way. They're halfwayers, right? They
That's
pitch their
true.
tent on the side of the mountain and not, make the journey all the way to the top. So this is tough, because now you're in a cul-de-sac, a box of awareness, a limiter of consciousness, where people think that they found the truth. They know what's going on, but ultimately they're just in a cul-de-sac. They're in a roundabout, and they're back in a certain level of conditioning, and it's hard for them to break out of that. So this would be blue pilled, right? In the
Mhm.
allegory, the Matrix, when Neo was offered the red pill or the blue pill, what did the blue pill do? The blue pill was going to give you a dose of truth. And then Neo would wake up like it was a dream. He would be back in his foundational conditioning of reality, what he thought reality was, right? So it's just a dose. This is where a lot of people are at, right? Through events like the pandemic, people got a dose that, whoa, the control system, the health aspect, this is all BS.
Right. Yep.
And we can look at um the health freedom movement, where people understand and they want freedom of choice for their body, for autonomy, and they want to make their own choices. And that's great. And that is correct. And that is moral. Absolutely. They understand that the whole pandemic was kind of a scam, government overreach, the control system. But that's where they stay. They
I was
stay
gonna
at
say
that
that.
level,
Yep.
right? That's getting blue pilled, meaning you got a dose of truth, but yet you didn't wake up. You didn't
Yep.
fully wake up. You're still
And you
in the dream, the illusion.
Right, and that's a great point, Will. I'm glad you brought that up because I've talked to people and they know, like, this pandemic, that they will fully get on board that there's something shady going on and they don't agree with what happened, and they see it's this crack that you're mentioning. But in the same breath, they'll still go back. I know people that'll still go back, watch the news. They'll still, you start talking about government, they'll bring up the adage, that we all have heard it, that we need government. So you bring up a really great point that people are kind of on this mountain and they're in the middle. Because I've talked to people, still talk to people they know this whole pandemic was really shady, and it was basically, that was the crack, but they're still, they still go watch the news. They still follow. They fall for politics. Now I'm hearing everybody arguing like, is Trump going to win? Is RFK going to win? Blah 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 blah. They're
Exactly.
still not over them. They're not at the top. Is what I'm saying.
Correct. Yeah, what they're missing and lacking is causal factors, the root of the problem.
Hmm.
They're missing knowledge of self, how the human being and the psyche truly operates, and they're missing, obviously, natural law, how reality manifests, and the governing dynamics of reality, of nature, the natural world. So, yeah, they stay stuck in this paradigm, this limiter of awareness, right?
Interesting.
And we can see this. I mean, the health freedom movement is a great example. The
Hmm.
health freedom movement is the largest halfwayers in my book. They understand bodily autonomy, they understand choice, they understand rights, but yet they don't apply it across the board. They still are stuck in this awareness that change can come from within the system, right? So now you have someone like RFK come out, right? And he's,
Hmm.
although he can speak about some correct topics, but they think that, oh, this is the guy that's going to create change. We just need to get him in office. He'll create change for us. And this is how this is going to work. So now he's the savior complex,
Yep.
right? He's put up on a pedestal. And people are still in that paradigm of the control system, of the belief in
Absolutely.
human authority, that
Hmm.
that government is legitimate, and change can come from rearranging chairs on the Titanic, pretty much.
Yep.
So this is what it means by getting blue pilled. And it's not just health freedom movement, right? It can be banking, understanding the fiat monetary system, right? The fractional reserve system. It can be something different as the educational system, right? But these are just pockets of categories that, yes, it's good to have an awareness of all of these categories, but still, we need to get down to the root of the problem, the causal factor. And this is where we need to kind of facilitate and influence people by putting out information to make that journey, to take the next step. So, moving up on the gradient scale, we have and it's interesting because we have conditioned versus awakened.
Hmm.
So the gradients are kind of they kind of go hand in hand, meaning as you go up from blue pill to red pill, you're moving towards awakening, right? And your conditioning is going down.
Right.
So we're going to work our way. We're going to do the whole progression all the way up. So then
Oh,
you get to somewhere like the red pill, right? And the red pill, in the allegory, the Matrix, Neo takes the red pill, and then he wakes up his from the false illusion of reality, and he wakens up to truth ultimately, right?
mhm.
Now, the red pill would be understanding causal factors, right? Understanding natural law, understanding um, that through our actions and alignment with natural law, that this is how we create change in the world, by becoming moral and aligning our actions, our thoughts, emotions, and actions to the truth. Now, a lot of people use this term red pilled all the time, right? Oh, you just
Yeah.
got red pilled. You just got red pilled. So again, we're still in the category sections where you can get red pilled on the banking system, the education, health, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, to be red pilled means you understand what truth is. You understand natural law. This is what it means. Getting down to the causal factors, extremely important. And a lot of
That
people,
is.
and there's a lot of saturation when it comes to this type of information, because I think a lot of people, they bypass the red pill and they actually go straight to the black pill. So what is the black pill? The black
Yes, that's a
pill
good point.
is all of the rabbit holes, the deep rabbit holes that people can get stuck in. The black pill is also fear based as well, right? Now, we can gain a lot of information. When you get black pilled, you understand the pedophilia rings, you understand the social engineers or dark occultists, you understand all the dark aspects of society and reality and our human condition, right?
Hmm.
And all of these rabbit holes. Now, some of the rabbit holes might be incorrect information, some of them might be correct, but the point of it is people get stuck on the black pill. They're information junkies. They just keep going down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole, and they want to take in, and it's really focused on effects as well, right? Because as these current events come out and these dialectics come out and these psyops and false flags, etc., they create what? They create more rabbit holes.
More rabbit holes. Yep.
So people get stuck on the black pill.
That's really fascinating. Like you're just saying that people kind of bypass the red pill, and this was like a great conversation I just had recently with somebody. We were talking about the red pill, the black, the blue, red, black, and my friend was kind of saying, like, people are really it's interesting when they're in this black pill state of mind, because like you were saying, they understand what's going on. And then I've never heard it quite broke down like you said, Will. Like they kind of, and I've been guilty of that, where I just keep looking into more information and more rabbit holes and more rabbit holes. And I think, I think you're very correct that people get stuck doing that. And I know people that, they're always looking into something, and they're always, and I think that's a good thing in a way. I think I'm always open to looking at new things, but I think what you're saying is it's very dangerous if you stay there. That's where your focus is, and you don't move away from that. Am I correct?
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. Because when you stay there, when you stay stuck in that that situation, right, that same level of consciousness, you're still implementing conditioning as well, right? You're still conditioned, because just taking in information does not equate to change, right? There's an important category, there's an important action that is associated with that, that distinguishes, from being truly awakened and conditioned, right? Because when you're conditioned, you're still getting an outcome that the social engineers want. They want you to be inactive. They want you to be stagnant. They really don't care if you discover the truth of reality and what is going on. They just want you not to act on it. Right. That's what it comes down. It's like you can know a whole bunch of secrets of the universe. You can understand what's going on in reality. You can understand the belief in human authority is illegitimate. The government system, the political system is BS. You can know all this kind of stuff, right? They don't care about that, because that is implementing the conditioning. You're still standing down. And this is what they don't want. They ultimately do not want action. People acting on this information, acting on what is correct, moral, what is right, and what is truthful. So this
makes a lot of sense.
It correct, because when you don't act, you just keep the system going. Right.
Yeah, and I just think they keep, and then there's no shortage of rabbit holes to go down. I just think that every time you turn around, there's something. And I think of the media. I think of so many different things as you say that, because they're always having people. And I think it's based in fear too. You're definitely locked in that fear state as you're chasing all these rabbit holes, it seems. And there's an endless supply of them. You could spend a lifetime, and they'll just keep feeding them to you, because they want you in that state of non-action. Wow. Okay.
Exactly. No, 100%. The dialectics, the false flags, psychological operations will continue to come as well.
Yep.
I mean, we can just, all you have to do is observe what's going on in the world. They're going to keep coming, and there's still going to be a whole bunch of people in the alternative media and the quote unquote freedom and truth movement that are going to focus on these categories. Sure, having a certain level of awareness, being aware of certain events, that's fine. But being stuck there, being conditioned to that point is stagnant. Absolutely.
Makes sense. Yeah,
for sure.
Makes a lot of sense. Wow. You're bringing up great points, Will. I'm just really thinking about what you're saying, and it's what you're saying rings so true, because at every stage, I know people in every stage of what we're talking about. I know people that are fully blue pilled still. I know people that are red pilled. I know a lot of black pilled people. I know there, and it's just, I just really see it, like the conditioning. I'm so glad that you're bringing that up, and I agree. Like the more I think about, I think about conditioning, and I always think, like, where does it start? And you brought it up perfectly, that it starts right when you're born. I just really, I see how they've infiltrated every aspect of our life, and then this conditioning starts, and it starts right when you're born, and then it's getting worse now. I think, at one time, at least there was some form of a family structure, where you had family, and I just see how they're tearing that apart. And then so you're getting the negative conditioning and the conditioning that these social engineers want even younger. So I mean, it's a weird uh place we're in. I don't know a better way to say it, but
Exactly. It's just like what I was saying about, breaking a horse, repetition,
yeah.
running them in circles, in circles, in circles, a revolution, right? The social
Hmm.
engineers, yeah, they want people, um, we're going to create a revolution. Let's have a revolution, because that's what a revolution is. Going in circles. You are revolving, going in circles. And this is what they want. They understand, the social engineers understand consciousness at a profound level. They understand
Yeah.
human behavior, psychology, and natural law, how things operate. So they know that human beings are curious, and that through our innate ability of logic and reason, our higher order thinking, that we are going to seek out information. So they know that there's going to be some people that are going to be outside of the box,
Hmm.
and that's fine with them. They just want to keep them in that circle. That's it.
Yeah.
When
Very
the
interesting.
trajectory is a spiral, a forward spiral, right? Everything in nature is a spiral. This is what evolution is. It's a forward moving spiral. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So they want to keep people, like you were saying, the because I've always said the most important, I think one of the most important steps, and a step that most people are lacking, is the action part. So I'm glad that we're going to get into that, because I think that that's key. Once you understand this stuff, I think a lot of people get stuck there. This black pill, I totally agree. I think I know people are stuck there, and they're missing the action part. So that's what they fear. The social engineers fear the worst, I would assume, is people starting to understand this and then take that final step of action.
exactly, right? Because this is what wisdom is. Wisdom is knowledge applied. Wisdom is action, right?
Hmm.
So just taking in information, understanding knowledge, it's all for nothing if you're not applying it to your life, right? You have to execute on this information and this knowledge. Like the great saying, right? To know and not do is to not know. So,
Right.
meaning that if you understand what is going on in the world, you understand causal factors, you understand the truth of what is going on, and then not acting on that, then you are tacitly agreeing. You are complicit in what is the atrocities and the injustice that's going on. So action must be applied. Must be applied. You're a gardener, Rick, so am I, right? we
Yep.
can we can understand, we can study, we can research, we can educate ourselves on gardening, but if you don't actually go and start a garden and garden it yourself, right,
Yep.
then you're not gathering that firsthand experience. You are not evolving in your understanding. You are not creating wisdom.
Yeah. That's a great simple analogy too, Will, because I was one of those people that read so many books on gardening and all the things I should do and shouldn't do. And then when I actually got a garden, it changed the game. As soon as I had to put it into action, I was like, wow. And then my best teacher so far, with, I can only say, for gardening, and because that's what we're kind of talking about, is actually doing it. I mean, I read so
Absolutely.
many books on it, but I had to get in the ground. I had to get hands and knees in the dirt and learn and trial and error and all of these things. And that was the key to it, is you
Correct.
have to get in there.
Absolutely. If
Yep.
you want to learn how to drive a vehicle, right? You have to get behind the wheel.
Yep.
You have to
Yep.
get behind the wheel and learn how to drive. If you want freedom, if you say you want freedom, well, then you have to live free. You have to act on that, right? So understanding what is going on in the world, and that we need people to raise their awareness, evolve towards higher consciousness. We need to act and influence and educate and inspire people to put that right foot forward and step out of the circle and start walking that staircase, that spiral staircase of awakening. So that's what we need to do. And this leads us to the gold pill. The gold pill is action itself. So it's understanding causal factors. It's understanding the truth of the human condition, of natural law, objective morality, natural rights. It's understanding the root of the issue, the causal factors on how to create change, and then acting on it. So you're a great example, Rick. You educated yourself, you did research, you took in all the information, you blue pilled, then you red pilled, and then you black pilled, and now you're gold pilling, right? So we have to apply that action. That's what the gold pill is. The gold pill is action itself, wisdom, knowledge applied. That's where we need to get people to get to that level. They need to get gold pilled.
That's so. I just want to what I want to ask you, Will, because I'm really curious about your thoughts on this. What do you think stops people from going to black to gold pill? What is their? I think I know what I think the answer is, but I'm curious about yours. Is like because I think that we were saying a lot of people are in this black pill state, and then they don't take the final step into the gold pill, which is action. What do you think is stopping people from doing that next step?
Great question. My answer is conditioning, their own conditioning. Now, this means that they're still under a certain level of mind control itself, right? So let's say someone is at the black pill, right, where they're going down all these rabbit holes, they're taking all this information, they're getting all the dark, nasty stuff of what's going on, but they don't act because there's fear there. It's always rooted in fear.
Fear, yeah.
And this is due to their conditioning. There's certain aspects of their psychology that they have not observed yet. They have not reconciled within themselves about the barriers and the roadblocks that they have within themselves to move forward. They need to be aware of these pitfalls within themselves, reconcile them or heal them, and then act and move forward. Right. So yeah, it comes down to conditioning. Here's a good example, right? Someone that is black pilled. They don't take action because it's all doom and gloom, right? Humans will never change. This is how it's going to be. What's the point of taking action? People aren't going to learn. People aren't going to change. We're doomed. Everything just needs to burn to the ground first, and then we can rebuild something, right? These are all barriers that someone has within their own psychology. So people can observe their own triggers. It's like, how do you know you're under mind control? Well, you have to observe your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Right. You have to observe what triggers you. So when you take on a certain category, a certain body of information, right? What's your thought process? What emotions are being activated? And what's the action or the lack of action that is associated with that information, right? We need to do that internal work, that checklist, that inventory, and put our awareness, the inner eye, within our own internal ecology, our internal environment, right? To shine the light on the darkness of ignorance, of lack of knowledge, of fear, and then recognize that, work through it, heal it, and then move forward.
That makes a lot of sense, Will. I'm just thinking that even now to this day, it's like I check myself a lot just by what you're describing. As soon as I react to something, I always examine why I reacted that way. I think a lot of people are in this reactive state. They're definitely not consciously even thinking about it. They react and it's so quick, and I'm sure everybody that's watching or listening, they know people that just react or in this reactive state. And when I notice myself reacting, I want to know why I'm reacting that way. Because especially if it's something that it's not even a topic that is something I focus on, but it's very interesting to me when I have these reactions, whether it's especially a negative one. If I hear a certain word or I hear a certain phrase or whatever it may be, a topic, and then I have this reaction, it's very interesting to me why I even had that reaction and why it's the reaction that it is. So I think that you're bringing up great points that you really have to start getting deep inside and examining yourself. And I just think that people have to get out of this reactive state. I see so many people in that state.
Absolutely, and let's touch on this a little bit, right? Let's touch on the cons and pros of initiating action, beginning to create action, right? So let's look at some of the cons. The cons are, fear-based psychological factors that stop a person from beginning, from taking action. So this could be, fears about their own personal characteristics. I'm not blank enough. Fill in the blank. This is what needs to be discovered by an individual. I'm not good enough to create action, to go public and share information. I'm not smart enough. I'm not skilled enough. I'm not motivated enough, right? So that's a question that people need to ask themselves. And going over to the pro side, right, which the pros for starting to initiate action and create action and perform action, right? This is based in love. The love, like agape love, right? The love for truth, for telling the truth. And so this is the pro for why a person should begin, right? So the internal work is a requirement for creating change, for creating freedom. So our world needs more voices to speak information, to speak the truth, to speak about freedom. So by you creating action, this will help others awaken, right? And by doing so, you're contributing to the effort of ending human slavery.
Makes sense.
Right?
It really
So
does.
I got a few other ones that I can dive into.
Absolutely. Yes.
So here's another con, right? A fear about skill sets. I don't know how to blank. I don't know how to have the technological skills or the speaking capabilities or organization or the knowledge, right? The skill sets of going public and creating action and speaking truth, right? Now, the pro of that would be that your effort inspires others to become involved, to take action themselves, right? It'll inspire someone to speak out and awaken more individuals. So another fear, right? Another con would be worldly attachments. I'm afraid of losing blank.
That's a big one. Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I'm afraid of losing relationships. I'm afraid of losing money, my career, my house, my life, right? Your life as you know it. So we're talking about sacrifice. So the pro of taking action is, if you consider yourself a good moral person, then it's not even a choice, right? If you truly consider yourself a good moral person and you understand what is going on in the world, then staying silent during tyrannical times, you would be complicit to evil.
Yes, you're right.
It's a hard truth, and this is a hard one for people to deal with. So the last one I'll state, right, for the con, the fear-based psychological factor is, the fear about resources. I don't have the resources. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. I don't have the equipment, etc., which kind of correlates with the last one, right? So the pro would be, if for no other reason, it's simply the morally right thing to do. So that is the pro. The pro of taking action is it's because it's the truth. It's the right thing to do. It's the correct thing to do. It's the moral thing to do, to speak out about what is going on in the world, down to the causal factors, understanding natural rights, objective morality, and natural law. So I'm glad we kind of segued into this. So,
Right.
what we just laid out was the questions of shadow work that someone needs to ask themselves in the mirror. Sit down with a pad and a pen and ask themselves these questions and be honest with yourself, right? It's the first step in initiation process is stop lying. You have to stop lying to yourself, stop lying to others.
Right.
So honesty.
That's a big one. And that's a tough one for people, Will. I mean, to be brutally honest, especially with yourself. Um, I just think a lot of people they fear that so much, and I've said many times, and I'll probably say it many times over. I think a lot of people don't even know who they truly are anymore. I think they've been so conditioned that they're just kind of just going along, and they're not even realizing that they don't even know who they truly are anymore, what they truly believe. That was a really big one when I do my shadow work. I always, and I say it all the time, like, where did these negative I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, like you were just bringing up, where did this even come from? I try to think back, and I'm like, this kind of seeped in like a virus, like in a computer. I don't know where it came from, but I can tell you, nobody's more brutal on me than me.
Yeah.
That's for sure. I was horrible, the things I said to myself, and I think a lot of people listening are probably saying, having the same problem. Like, where I don't know where this comes from, like where we're picking this up, but it's definitely conditioning, because I mean, it's constant. Like, where do people even get this, that they're not good enough, they're not smart enough, they're not pretty enough? Put, like you said, fill in the blank. There's a million of them, but it's
Yes.
seeping in there somehow, and it's getting into people and stopping them.
Exactly. It's been within themselves, right? This is the conditioning. This is
Wow.
what
Yeah.
someone needs to evaluate and do that internal work, right? The great work comes first, and it's an ongoing process.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, and then from there, you can do the one great work, which is action based, right? Going public in the world and talking about the causal factors, talking about natural law. So let's talk about, let's talk about a few aspects of what does it mean to truly be awakened,
Great question. Yeah.
right? And I want to delineate this from woke, right? Woke is a radical left statement, which is a false illusion awakening. Being woke is, social justice type stuff.
Hmm.
This is not what it means to be truly awakened. The eye is open, the inner eye, right? This is what the eye of providence is, right? The all-seeing eye. The all-seeing eye is, it's an ancient symbol of God, of natural law, always present. This is what the eye of providence is. And to awaken your inner eye, there are certain categories. When someone says, "Oh, I'm awake," this person is truly awakened. What does that mean? So there are some categories that are extremely important, right? Number one, you have to understand occultism, right? And people are still hung up on this word. The word
Oh, yeah.
occult simply means hidden knowledge. That's all it means, right? What type of knowledge is being hidden from the majority of people, from the masses, right? Well, there's light aspects and dark aspects. The information is the information of human psychology, how we operate internally, and how nature operates, natural law, the governing laws of creation. This is what the body of information, of knowledge is. This is occultism because it is hidden. We can look at certain aspects of health, and there's lots of occulted knowledge in
Hmm.
the realms of health, right? But
Absolutely.
ultimately, it's coming down to the to natural law, which natural law correlates with external reality and internal ecology, internal environment. So, our own psychology, understanding occultism, both light and dark aspects, understanding that this body of knowledge can be used for evil, violence, coercion, duress, slavery, or it can be used for morality, right action, evolution and consciousness, symbiosis with nature and life and creation. So there are two aspects that, and we need to understand them both, right? We need to understand ourselves and the enemy. So
Absolutely.
another aspect, I'll just run through a few of them, right? Is understanding that the truth is singular and objective. Truth does exist. There is no such thing as your truth, my truth, her truth, his truth, right? Truth is objective, meaning it's not based upon your perception or your beliefs or how you feel, right? So
Mhm.
we can understand the truth of reality, which is natural law, the governing dynamics. We can understand the truth of what is going on in the world, meaning that the majority of people do not understand themselves and they condone and support a false religion called the belief in human authority, the religion in human authority, government, right? And through this belief, they are inactive and they are taking incorrect action and supporting and condoning the control system, which is causing the current human condition of slavery and bondage.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow, great points, Will. I'm just really listening to what you're saying, and yeah, I really like the fact too that how you're breaking this down. I think this is really going to help people and understand it. And the one thing I was when you were talking about, you have to look at the light and the dark, kind of. Just you have to look at both, and I think that's one thing that they've really sold people on is not to look at anything dark. Like, don't look at anything dark. It's gonna manifest, you're gonna bring it into your life and all of that, which I've always got really upset about. I always understood that it's just information I'm taking in. It's what I use, like what I do with this information, that is the key. But they've really sold people on don't look at anything dark or negative, or as for all the reasons I just said. And I think that maybe stops a lot of people from even doing the work on themselves. Like, that you're taught, like at least I was taught, that you don't focus on the negative things. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that was key in my awakening, if that's what you want to call it. I mean, I my discovery, and it was key that I had to look at these dark things. And people really kind of tried to steer me away from it, believe it or not, saying don't look at that, don't, it's gonna have a negative effect if you do. And I think they've really done a good job selling people on that idea to not even look at it, to push it aside. And you're like what you're saying, you have to look at the good and the dark.
Absolutely. You just touched on an aspect of conditioning itself, right? That's a big
Hmm.
one. Don't look at the negative. This is prevalent in the new age
Hmm.
box of consciousness, right? That people get stuck in. And absolutely, this is a conditioned aspect, a conditioned response. When you try to bring, dark, truthful information to someone, right? It it triggers a
Absolutely.
conditioned
Yep.
response, and that is, oh, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. You're messing up my vibe, man.
Yep.
So, so it absolutely is. We need to understand our triggers and these conditioned aspects of ourselves.
Wow.
And
It's a really fascinating, like, this topic. It really is.
yeah, no, it's a great topic for people to contemplate and apply introspection towards, and really, listening and viewing this video and taking in this information is one thing. Sitting with it and contemplating on what we're talking about and applying it to yourself and asking yourself those questions that we just stated, that's another thing. And then acting on it, meaning changing. This is kind of the issue, right? A lot of people, if you ask the majority of people, are you open-minded? Are you truly open-minded? The majority of people will be like, yeah, I'm open-minded. They think they are. But to be open-minded means that you have a willingness to change, meaning that you will take in information, you will entertain it, you won't subscribe to it, and you won't deny it on its face. You will take it and you will apply logic and reason, and
Mhm.
then apply that to yourself. So there's a willingness of change, and this is where that aspect is where a lot of people cannot go forward to. They can't act on that. right? It's like when you
Right.
explain to them and you provide them correct information why government is immoral and illegitimate eternally, right? And should not exist and cannot exist, then they have that conditioned response. They do not have a willingness to change. They will make what? They'll make justifications, which the word
Excuses.
justification, it
Yeah.
means to create a right, right? You're
Hmm.
creating a right. You're creating an excuse.
Wow, and I wanted to ask you, well, and I hopefully I word this right. So, and I kind of asked you this before we recorded. Um, the Can somebody be so conditioned that they think they're awake, and is that a
Mm.
slippery slope? Because I'm wondering, like, how many people are walking around going, "Yes, I'm awoke, I absolutely am," but they're just extremely conditioned. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And the answer is 100% yes. And I think a lot of people are stuck in this conditioned zone of thinking they are aware, thinking that they are awake, but still implementing their conditioning and the mind control, right? And how can you delineate and discover this within someone? Well, patterns tell all, right? Action says volumes, speaks volumes,
Hmm.
right? If someone is not actually doing the one great work, if they are not trying to effectively and efficiently create change in the world towards freedom, truth, and the alignment to natural law, then they are definitely not awake, right? They definitely aren't
Right.
awake. And people might have a hard time with that, right? But that's the truth of the matter, is that for us to change the current human condition, if we say we want freedom, then people, individuals need to understand how to think and act in the world morally. First principles. They need to understand first principles, first things first, right? They need to understand the non aggression principle, the self defense principle, and the self ownership principle, right? They need to
Mhm.
understand this and they need to act on it. So just by having a conversation with someone, you can understand, engage their level of awareness, right? So it's
Makes
all
sense.
about their action. This is how manifestation works. It's based upon actions, which our actions are based upon the information that we hold. So, someone's not checking their conditioning, right? Then it will show in the patterns of their behavior and action.
That makes a lot of sense. It really does. Well, how many? And I, because that was, yeah, you explained it perfectly, because that was kind of like when I was having this discussion a while back with, I was telling you, with my friends, and we kind of got into that, like how many people think they're awake, like, oh, and but they're truly not. They're just really conditioned. And you broke it down really well, that you judge it by like somebody's actions tells you all. I really do believe that. Like, they can say anything you want, but then let's see what they're really doing. Let's see what they're putting out there. Let's see, the fruits of their labor, or whatever it could be. That's going to really give you an idea of what they truly believe, and what they really are fighting for, I guess.
Absolutely, for sure,
Yeah,
because you
it
can
makes
say one thing and do another.
yeah,
So, yeah, getting down to first principles, understanding natural law and objective morality. Now, why is this first principles? Because you have to do the logical progression, right? We exist in this reality and we're going to interact with beings and other people. So, what's more fundamental than action and behavior? Now,
right.
does that action or behavior, is it immoral or moral? Does it initiate aggression or harm? Or is it voluntary and consensual? This is very important. This is the root. If someone does
Yeah,
not understand this, then they are absolutely not awakened. Now, being awake is not an end of a road thing, right? This is what we are here to do as infinite consciousness having an experience. We are here to learn and grow. So you don't get to a certain point and that's the end of the road. And now you're awakened, you're enlightened. It's an ongoing process. The information that we talk about, objective morality and natural law, this is just to get us up to par. right? We're just
Right.
getting up to the information of just knowing ourselves and knowing nature and how nature operates, right? We can still progress further than that, but we're being restricted and we're being hindered due to the control system, the slavery system that is there, right? Rick, you and I and many of the viewers are not slaves. There's a difference between being free mentally and being enslaved externally. We
Right.
are all under the condition of external slavery. But the question is, and this is where it starts, are you free mentally? We need to free our minds first, right? And then act in the world to create change, to end external the human condition of slavery.
Right. I agree. 100%. Well, and I've said it. I also think, and I've said it a lot too. It seems to come up in a lot of my discussions. Is that's the real trick that they've pulled on people? Is that they've enslaved people's minds, and it's, and I always kind of say, like, at least back in the day with slavery, when there was chains involved, you could see you were enslaved. Like, it's very obvious when you're being held with chains and being kept. The trick now, what they've done is they've enslaved people's minds, and what's scary is that people don't even realize that their minds are enslaved. I think that it's so evil. I don't know how
Yes,
to. It's what they've done. They've taken, and people say, "Well, we're not. There's no slavery. There's been slavery for a long time." They've just changed it, and it's even worse. As I was just saying, you can't see it.
exactly. Yeah, people, when they hear even the word war, oh, we are at war, they think of, like, in the trenches,
Right. Yep.
dropping bombs. And yes, that's an aspect of war. That can be an aspect of war. But this is a psychological, a covert, and occulted war that is going on.
Yep.
And the social engineers want to move this from covert to overt, right?
Mm-hmm.
To out in the open, shackles and chains. This is ultimately where they want to go.
Yep.
And since you're talking about the mind, this is important to bring up that a lot of people don't know is epigenetics, right?
Right.
It's also a
Yep.
category, called new biology as well. But this is a proven um, category of science, which ultimately has been known since antiquity, since ancient times. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, quote unquote, modern science is stepping into this realm. What is epigenetics? Right. Well, let's break up the word. EPI, is beyond, and genetics, genes, beyond the genes. So when we look at epigenetics, what it means that our genetic expression is based upon our consciousness. This is what this means. So we are not just, as how science and the medical industries for many years have talked about that we are a victim of our genes, that
Right.
genes are, they just are what they are, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
not the case. We can change our genetic expression through our mind and our consciousness. This is what the social engineers do not want. Now, they take this aspect, right? They take epigenetics and then they mix it with eugenics, which eugenics is, the word eugenics means of of noble good stock. That's what the word actually means. And what it's referring to is breeding, is reproduction, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you have epigenetics and eugenics, right, which we can see a lot of people that are listening might understand, you know, Bill Gates, Margaret Sanger, and Planned Parenthood, how there's a depopulation agenda. They want to, making human beings infertile and sterilizing human beings. Right.
Mm-hmm.
This is dysgenics, or I'm sorry, dyseugenics. So if eugenics means good breeding, right?
Mm-hmm.
Breeding up, meaning a man and a woman come together and they align on principles and they have good, they just have good biology and it mixes well, and then their offspring would be elevated, would be of good stock, right? The opposite of that would be like incest. You're
Right.
going to have bad stock. You're going to have issues mentally, physically, all kinds of stuff like that. So that's what eugenics means. But dyseugenics is breeding down. So they want vaccinated people to breed with other vaccinated people or unvaccinated people, right? So they're trying to make people infertile and sterile, right? This is what downgrading the reproduction process is doing, right? But when you
Mm-hmm.
mix that with epigenetics, you get epidyseugenics. So by mind controlling the public, mind controlling people, then you get them to breed, you influence them to come together and reproduce, then you are going to produce more conditioned, brainwashed slaves. This is what this category is about. It's a huge category. I'm going to do a presentation on it at some
Yeah.
point, but the key factor is understanding epigenetics, that consciousness is prime at the fundamental level of the universe and of our own being. It is consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And consciousness it sets the stage, it sets the direction of how our physical vessel will operate and how we will just operate in the world. So by manipulating, influencing, engineering knowledge and information, you are affecting people's consciousness, and then you're going to get a certain outcome, which means people are condoning and supporting the control system, and the lack of conscious parenting, meaning that they are raising brainwashed and conditioned children as well to
Yeah.
promote the control system. So
Wow, that's so powerful what you're saying, Will, and I'm so glad you broke that down because I think a lot of people they don't even really know the meaning of the words. You hear these words and they've hijacked like they do every other word, and they've really kind of turned it into something that it's not. And I hope you do a presentation on this because I think this is a really big topic, and I just see how people's you touched on so much. My brain, my mind's kind of got like questions going everywhere, but um, I just think of how you brought up just to kind of go back. You were talking about the power of the mind. I think that is such a powerful topic as well because I was told like, and you were bringing up like the doctors, that's what they told me is like, oh well, it's just genetic what happened to you, and there's nothing you could do about it. You were just luck of the draw. That's kind of what they told me. And then I see people that have had conditions even way worse than mine, people that were told they're never going to walk again, people they're not going to talk again, but they do. So
yeah,
I don't think we've ever even touched the power of how our mind can influence our bodies. I think it's
correct.
this willpower that you have, and I've seen it in my life where they've told me for years that I couldn't do certain things, and then I am. So there's
Exactly. You're a great example. Now, perfect example, Rick. Absolutely. I mean, the doctors told you one thing, oh, you're never going to do this, you're never going to do that, and you prove them wrong. Right
absolutely.
now,
Yep.
and I want to clarify, having a certain condition. I mean, this doesn't mean that I get in a car accident and I lose my legs, that I'm not going to, through an act of will, through my consciousness, I'm going to grow new legs or something
Right.
like that, right? I mean,
Right. Yeah.
we need to be in the realm of realistic reality. But
Yep.
you're a perfect example. Like, look at all the stuff that you are doing that the doctor said, oh, due to your, genetic condition, you're never going to do these things,
Yep.
and you prove them wrong.
That's
So
powerful.
yeah, and we can even see in the whole gender inversion thing, right? This is a part of epidyseugenics. This is
Yep.
what it is. Getting people, influencing people to think that a man can have a child, right? This is affecting people's consciousness with false deception in their mind to get them to act a certain way,
Hmm.
right? I mean, it's so
For sure.
epidyseugenics, right, is the propagation of eugenics, right? Through consciousness, beyond the genes, through consciousness, by way of social engineering, which is mind control, right? For selective breeding, so that the population of eugenics strategy is targeted to destroy, and for the population for the herd to cull itself.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what it is.
Wow, and that it's so evil, Will. What you're like, what we're talking about. It shows me what we're up against, and I get people when they get discouraged. I really do, because of what we're talking about. I think even people are listening are like, and I think a lot of people stay. It kind of ties back to bring this full circle. How people kind of get black pilled and then they stay there. You know what I mean? Like, it's just hopeless. Why are we even fighting back? But I refuse to believe that. I know that we can change things, and it can be done. But I understand why people are in this black pilled state when
Yeah.
they get to the point where they're just like, I don't know what, like, we're really up. So if I were, and I want to be honest, and I like to be honest with people, like, we're really up against some evil people and evil ideas, and this it's just evil what we're up against. And I've been saying it's a spiritual war that we're up against, and so I get it why people are kind of like in that black pilled state, but that's the fight that we're up against, is that we have to find the courage and the willpower to get past that.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I agree with you 100%. It's this is our task to do, right? We need to understand what it means to be literate in the modern age,
Hmm.
in this digital age, and this is understanding technology. Technology is a tool that we could use. It now, what we use that for is on us. So
Yeah,
if we say we want freedom, if we say we want certain things, right? Action is required. We need to fulfill the requirements. We need to understand the technological components on how to get knowledge and a message out efficiently and effectively, to influence and inspire others to do that internal work, and then ultimately create action themselves, because we need numbers.
we
the
do.
more the more people come into awareness, awaken to the causal factors of objective morality and natural law, and then align their behavior with that and take action, then we will start to see a change in the human condition towards freedom.
Right. Yeah. I totally agree with that too, 100%. And I'm just looking, I just want, before we wrap it up, I always want to try to wrap up on some positive uh, kind of ideas. So I want to let you kind of cover that, Will. And I mean, we're talking about a lot of different topics here. I hope people are going to really, take in what we're saying and think about it and give it a lot of thought. Um, how does somebody get, like, so we're talking about somebody the conditioned man. How does somebody begin their journey of getting away from being conditioned and moving towards being truly awakened? I mean, I think a lot of people are just, they don't even know where to start. So maybe that's a good little way to end it, is giving some people some positive encouragement on where to begin this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think the questions that we touched on earlier is a good place to start, right? But ultimately, it's having that internal dialogue with the self, with yourself, of, what do I believe? Why do I believe it? So if someone is a libertarian or supports RFK, and or thinks that government is a necessity, or change can come from that, it's just asking themselves the hard questions and being honest with themselves. Obviously, we need knowledge and information. We need to take that in of the causal factors. So for example, like your viewership, right? You talk a lot about natural law, objective morality, and the causal factors that we need to know. But so we need that information and that knowledge, but then to get from there to activation, to
Mhm.
activating, to creating action, right? Then we need to ask ourselves the questions that we stated earlier, right? What is holding one back? and be honest. Journaling is great. I like to a pad and a
Me
pen.
too.
I like to write in a journal and take an observation of my behaviors and my triggers. Really, that's what it comes down to, is observing your triggers, because that's
Yep.
gonna showcase and shed light on your conditioning and the mind control ultimately.
Yep.
Right? What
Yep.
makes you feel uncomfortable? What do you not want to talk about? Why did you get upset, etc.? So really observing that, and doing that internal work, and then asking yourself the hard questions of what is holding you back from creating action. And
Great.
I'll say a great quote that I love by Thomas Aquinas. Right? He
Okay.
says, "He who is not angry when there is just cause for anger is immoral." Why? Because anger looks to the good of justice. And if you can live amid injustice without anger, you are immoral as well as unjust.
Wow.
So that's speaking to the emotion of righteous anger. If you're not mad, if you're not disturbed about the injustice and the violations that's going on in the world, then you are complicit as well, and you yourself are immoral. So action is required, and because simply because it's the right thing to do.
Right thing. Yep. Wow. So powerful, Will. Thank you so much for once again joining me. I could talk to you for hours. You know that. I learned so much, and I find our conversations so powerful and interesting, and I think they need to be had. So I really do want to thank you once again for coming on the show. I really do mean that. You're doing amazing stuff out there. Keep up doing the great work that you're doing. Can you let people know if they want to look up your work, just anywhere that you want to send people so they can start looking into all the content that you're putting out there? Because you're doing a lot of work. So I would like to make sure that people at least can find your work and that.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, no, it's always a pleasure to come on your show. I'll come back anytime, and thank you to all the viewers that for their time and their attention. I'll give out one link. It will lead people to my social medias, to my presentations, and all my websites. Linktree/Will Keller. And that will take you to freedomundernaturallaw.com, One Great Work Network, Natural Freedom League, Linktree/Will Keller. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate you.
Not a problem. I appreciate you too, Will. And I'll make sure I put a link in the description, guys, so you can find Will's work. And I'm just going to wrap up the show here. Will, do you want to wait in the back there for 1 second?
Sure.
And then I can say bye and all of that. But I just want to wrap it up, and I'll be like 2 minutes.
Cool.
All right, cool. All right, guys, thank you so much once again for joining me. Incredible interview. One I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you internalize and you listen to and start really asking yourself these tough questions and start on your journey. I cannot recommend Will's work enough. I will make sure, like I said, I'll leave a link in the description so you can go and find all his presentations and the content he's putting out there. And I will definitely have him back too, because I always enjoy covering different topics with him. I've had him on talking about conscious parenting. We've covered natural law. We've talked about a lot of great topics. So you can check those out on my channel, guys. So thank you once again for joining me, for supporting me. And I will be back very, very soon with another interview, guys. So thank you so much. Take care, and I'll see you very soon. All right.